I'm guessing you already done your white balance. It's awesome. Well, as everybody knows, we're back to work. We had a good meeting session yesterday and practice last night, and it's always fun on Sunday night when you win. We've got a much different challenge this week. We're not only playing an offense that's had a lot of success and has run up some big numbers. Again, we're playing a team that's got a quarterback that's experienced and is playing very well, but a defense that's considerably different than what they were at this time last year. Have been very effective. So we'll have a challenge this week. Our players are in a good frame of mind and excited, and we're at a point now where to work to have 2 good practices a week and polish up on Thursday and get ready to play with a lot of effort. Should be a lot of fun this weekend. 2 good teams and should have a great atmosphere, and so we're looking forward to it. Looking forward to the week's work of practice.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Josh Stewart and his last 4 games, 40 catches, over 400 yards?
Josh has been really good for us, and not only as a receiver, but we've been able to flip the ball to him and let him run the ball. And when we recruited him, the word was that he was a gamer, that he liked to touch the football and liked to be in the heat of the moment and be the guy that you rely on for big plays. And he's starting to mature a little bit. You know, he's only been around here a year and a half, and we're very glad we have him. He's a guy that I mentioned after the game that really likes to play football, and those guys that really enjoy playing the game got a great chance to have success.
Coach, you had back-to-back kickoff returns for touchdowns. Talk about how big that is for your special teams unit.
Back-to-back.
Well, you guys returned the kickoff and touchdown.
Oh, I got you. No, 2 different games. I got you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, at that point, when they cut it to 14-7, for us to be able to return that kickoff and get momentum back on our side was really important. And at this conference a week ago, I said that I thought that special teams would be really important in this game because we felt like that both offenses would score points. And there were several times in the game that momentum played a huge factor, and it was based on our special teams.
Can you talk about the senior class and the role they've played with their leadership this year within the locker room?
They've done really well, and early in the season we talked about them creating an identity and developing some team chemistry. And as the season's gone on, they've worked hard at it, and they've accomplished a lot as a group. And you have teams that have to really work to create that based on losing a lot of leadership from the year before. And these guys have rallied and stayed together, and through good times and some tough times. So I'm proud of them for what they've accomplished up to this point, and they need to lead us all the way through.
Coach, talk a little bit about BCS politicking. And last year you were up at the top. This year, with all the teams at the top, they're still undefeated. Does there come a time when coaches should begin publicly politicking for their team with situations like this year, and even last year in your case?
Well, I think that each coach has to make a decision based on what gives his team the best opportunity to play in the championship game. I don't know that there's a perfect time. That's how we would handle it here. It's really hard for me to speak for anybody else, but our staff has talked about it, and then obviously, I had a method for what I thought was best for us last year. It didn't work. We ran the election and finished second, or third, for that matter. So I don't know that I have all the answers, but that would be my opinion.
Would you do things differently over what you did last year, bearing what happened?
No, because ultimately I don't think it would have mattered. I think the way that we handled it was the best way. Was that at one particular point, the way it transpired, we didn't deserve to be in the game, but as it finished up, we certainly felt like we did. And so to put it aside for a week and then be willing to roll the dice and say you had to be really good the next week in order to put yourself in that situation to promote, I think it worked well for us. We just finished third by not a lot. I don't know if it would have mattered now that I look back on it.
Mike, I'm not asking you who the starting quarterback is for Saturday, but I am wanting to know about the process of determining that.
Well, we're not really sure right now. And I think for me to give you any other answer would be unfair. We haven't been in a situation like this. We hope that we have 3 healthy players on Saturday. There's a chance that that could happen. We won't know for sure till late in the week. There's still discussions taking place. The only answer I have is that we're going to play the guy that we feel like gives us the best chance to win the game Saturday, the best chance to move the team and have success. I don't think that there's any perfect answer or any right answer based on we have 3 individuals that have been in our program who are getting close to being in a position to play. I don't know that we have them all right now, but we could. And so there will be at least one guy and maybe 2 guys based on where we're at from a health standpoint that won't be happy with the decision that's made, the competitive nature of an athlete. As coaches, we have to make tough decisions, and that's what we'll do on Thursday.
Coach, seemingly the relationship between these guys appears to be really good. For instance, Saturday, Wes and JW were together the entire time in the bench area. They were watching what Clint was doing. They had smiles on their faces. They looked like they interact well. They were happy, it seemed like, for Clint. Does that make the role you have here easier because at least the guys get it? They're for each other as well as themselves?
Yeah, I think JW and Wes were trying to decide what play they should have run and then wondering how Clint figured it out so fast, to be honest with you. But the relationship is really good. Todd Monken has done a nice job of handling all 3 players. We've been very upfront with them. And I don't think there's any reason to hide that being upfront with them is not always the easiest thing and may not be right. Sometimes we're wrong. But for the most part, that's fostered and created an environment for those guys to have a good relationship. And we felt like that in our experience as a staff that when they walk out of that meeting room or they walk out of that position room or they head out of the locker room for the day, at least they know they've been told the truth from our standpoint, whether they agree with us or not. So the example I'm giving you is that's helped those guys develop a relationship.
When you look at the coming out of spring ball, the perceived gap between the 3 guys compared to now that you've had game film to look at with each of them, has that gap stayed the same in your mind? Has it shrunk? Has it been blurred, as Coach Monken said? How would you?
Well, I think it gets blurred based on the 3 of them having success. Now Clint has been in for 5.5 quarters, 5.5 quarters. And his experiences has been evident in that he makes fewer mistakes than the other 2 guys. So I think blurred is probably a good description of Clint's played better than what we would have anticipated, or at that point he wouldn't have been 3rd team. I don't know any other way to put it. And again, we've been wrong before in situations. And I mentioned how much admiration I have for Clint and the way he's handled this situation for 9 months now. It's not an easy task for us, but I'd rather be in this situation than looking for a guy to go out there and make a play.
How have you seen Josh and Charlie mature just in this year? Because it seems like with all the injuries, they've kind of become the veterans of that wide receiver corps.
They have, with the injury to Tracy, and then Isaiah, and then the other guys kind of in between. For a while there, it seemed like just yesterday, but a month ago, we were reaching for who we were going to actually hang our hat on because as diversified as our offense is, the strength of it is based on at some particular point somebody's got to make a play. And we've had that luxury over the last few years with a Des Bryant in a different offense, but really the thought process is the same. A Justin Blackman, and even a Tracy Moore in crucial times last year made big plays for us. Josh and Charlie have stepped up in the last month and been reliable players for us to make plays in crucial times. Those plays don't always occur on 3rd and 4 or 4th and 1, but at times during the game when you need a big play. And that's what those two guys have given us over the last month.
Mike, what does it say about your program from a depth standpoint, maybe from an attitude standpoint? There was always the concerns in the past when it came to depth, but all the issues that you've had with the injuries, now you got the 3 quarterbacks, each one stepping in, winning Big 12 games. What does it say how far this program has come recently?
Well, we've definitely come a long ways, and me and our staff, we're firm believers that when you have situations and you have years where you have unfortunate injuries, you could have certain incidents that affect your team. If you don't have strength and stability and trust and respect inside your football organization, in my opinion, it falls apart. The wheels come off. Because at the end of the day, they have to trust us, we have to trust them. They have to respect us, and we have to respect them. They got to want to play hard for us, and we got to give them that opportunity. And that's what's happened to this football team this year. And so it's taken a while to do it. You know, we're in our 8th year now. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time. And the players have bought in. I mentioned to them last night in the team meeting, I watched the television replay of the game, which I do because it gives me an opportunity as a head coach to get a better feel for our players, our attitude, our body language, their excitement, things that I think are important in order to having a good football team. And I saw a lot of excitement with our players in that game that I didn't see on Saturday. Ryan Robinson and Justin Gilbert and number 7 on defense, Shamil, yeah, it's easier for me to say numbers, and number 8 and 99 and 37, guys that have to play with a lot of excitement in order for us to have success on defense. And they were showing that excitement. That's the only way you can slow down good offenses. And so I had mentioned to them that that's something that has to come to the top on their part. We can't do that for them. We can only show them the way, and then at some point they've got to do it on their own. So that's a long answer for that's the reason why this team is having success in a difficult season when you deal with all the outside injuries and incidents that have gone on.
Ideally, was that a springboard game for Justin Gilbert?
I hope so. He got beat deep one route early in the game, and then he made a number of good plays. And he was good in special teams. And sometimes young people, and I say young people, but he's 20 or 21 years old, however old he is, they get affected by things that are different or outside the program, can be mentally. And I think he's been affected by what's going on out there in the world and not really focused on what was happening here with our football team. And sometimes they get it turned, and some players don't. And he certainly played much better in both phases for us. Well, really 3 phases for him. His return game, his coverage on our kick units, and also on defense.
Are you essentially seeing the same defense or offense the second week in a row, or not really?
Not really. West Virginia's approach with Gino is considerably different, in my opinion, than Texas Tech's approach with, I know his last, I think it's Seth, right, his first name. And so there's some similarities in some route concepts, but really not in the total package, in my opinion, but very dangerous in their own way.
Mike, West has obviously had to come out of 2 games this year. This may be a little too hypothetical for you to answer, but as long as he is cleared to come back, is there any hesitancy on your part or your staff's part to put him back in, given the fact that he's had to come out twice?
Once he's released, if we feel like he gives us the best chance, and we'll put him in the game based on all the different circumstances that we're going through right now. So from a mental standpoint or a medical clearance standpoint, there's not any drawbacks.
Coach, to be able to win no matter what quarterback you put in there, does that mean you're exceptional coaches or you have great athletes?
I think we got better players and coaches. And they've bought in. I do think that our coaches have worked hard. I think every head coach is going to say that. I feel like that this is probably the best overall staff that we've ever had here when it comes to teaching, coaching, developing young men, leading them, and recruiting. And all that's a factor in having success on game day. And they're doing a really good job. But the core values of our system are in place, and they have to lead themselves to a certain extent. And so I think they've been a bigger factor in this success than we have as coaches.
I heard another coach on the conference call today asked about the emotions you go through during the game and making sure whether you're decision-making or responding to something that you have to somewhat keep some things in check. How does that work with you, you know, as far as, okay, you know the camera's on you at the same time too.
Well, it's no different than me responding in media conference if a cell phone's going off. I mean, you know, and again, if I didn't like all you guys, I'd give you a hard time, but I turned mine on vibrate before I came in here. You guys see me do that every day. So, no, anyway, you get kids at home screaming and fighting, you get used to noise. You know, it's not easy. And, you know, my wife didn't even come to this game because of the emotional ties between West Virginia and Oklahoma State, and which I didn't know it till after the game. She just stayed home because her relationship with Joe DeForest and Lord DeForest and Gillespie and Spav and Andrew, and, you know, Dana wasn't here long enough. I mean, she, other than seeing him from a distance, you know, they didn't have a relationship like she's had with the other coaches. And so I asked her, I said, well, you know, why would you not come to the game? What difference does it make? I can sit on the couch with my two dogs, watch it on TV, and I'm better. Well, that's an example of the emotions that are played in games like this. And so on the sideline, coaches and players both put a lot of work into each Saturday. And you want the players to have success so they'll continue to buy in. Because ultimately, if you're working to build a project, at some point that project has to get completed. You're tired of working on it. And the success for these guys happens during a week and Saturdays when they get their results. So for a coach, we want them to enjoy the fruits of their labor. We want them to see that all the hard work is going to pay off, because if it doesn't, it can affect the long term of the team. And there's a lot of emotions in that, and it's really hard to explain, but I will say that our coaches on the sideline have done a great job of keeping their composure. The only guy that loses his composure is me at times with the officials. And I'm really not mad at them either. I may just be taking out some frustrations on them. But when you look at our sideline, Bill Young and Jason and Singleton and Dunn and Van, those guys do a great job of keeping all their emotions in check. So in turn, our players, for the most part, don't panic and they stay pretty level-headed.
Coach, there have been people questioning or maybe criticizing Wes Lunt's toughness. What would you say to those critics?
Well, first off, I think it's difficult for anybody outside of college football to really question a very combative and physical sport. College football is not easy. And when you have a young player who ultimately was a high school student when he arrived here on campus and then got thrown into the fire really early and took some hits, and I mean, you can call it like it is, but if your kneecap's on the side of your leg, it's probably going to hurt. And it's going to take a little while to come back from that. So I can certainly understand people who want to be critical, but I would be real hesitant in challenging his mental toughness He's not a flamboyant, loud, and boisterous young man. So some people may have that approach, but we certainly don't see anything that concerns us with his mental toughness.
Mike, usually when you bring in your third-team quarterback, most places it's not a very pretty sight. Isn't there some part of you that thinks that was, I mean, the guy was 13, went out and won a Big 12 game. That's a pretty impressive day for a third-team quarterback, isn't
No
it?
question. And I tried to do the best I could, or the best I can, of expressing that. I have a great amount of respect for what he was able to accomplish in a difficult situation, just from an emotional standpoint, being the fourth-year guy, and you had two freshmen that were named starters ahead of you. But there's a certain side of Clint that really doesn't want you to do that. Some people need to be told all the time that things are going well and they're doing good to function on a daily basis. Some people don't. Clint just wants the respect that he accomplished a small part of what we asked him to do, because he's only played for 6 quarters. He doesn't necessarily need to be told that. But what you said is right on. I've been places and coached places and hear that if a third-team quarterback ever comes in, you work on quick kick and some things like that, try to make yourself feel better and hope that you can make plays on defense. So we're certainly pleased with what he accomplished. And I'm sure you guys probably already talked to Todd, but mentally, the way he handled the defense, the different looks, the blitzes, his operation was really good. And that doesn't surprise us, because he's been effective with that throughout his time here in our practices and scrimmages.
By Saturday, if both quarterbacks are healthy, is the depth chart still the same as it was at the beginning of the season?
Well, we're not going to say what we're going to do. We hope to have 3 healthy guys on Saturday. We're not sure that we will yet. But if we have 3 healthy guys, then we have some difficult decisions to make, but we'll ultimately try to do the best we can to put ourselves in position to win.
Coach, talk a little bit about, last year it was a blowout, and likely your opponent will have that game scheduled or circled. How do y'all handle the intensity you're going to have to come up with this week, knowing that they're going to be ready for you guys?
Well, it's 2 completely different teams. And again, I can't speak for Coach Tuberville and his staff, but I'm just going to guess that the mental approach of his team this week compared to last week is completely different. They've had a tremendous amount of success this year. I don't know what they're ranked on defense. They've got to be pretty high in this league. I'm just looking at their numbers and studying their average and what they're giving up in their points. They got to be up there at the top. Last year they were way down at the bottom, and their quarterback is a savvy football player who understands the system's been in it. And I think our players understand that from watching tape. You just got to turn the tape on and watch, and you'll see a completely different team this year than what you saw last year.
Everybody good?
Good. All right.